Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Missile Dancer 2, Rail Shooter Action. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Teradine Games, Missile Dancer 2 released in March of 2024 for the PC via Steam and the Nintendo Switch. Though listed as a sequel, Missile Dancer 2 couldn't be more different from the original. Missile Dancer was a vertical scroller that used a sphere grid around your ship to lock onto the enemies, whereas Missile Dancer 2 is a rail shooter much more in the vein of titles like G-Lock and Afterburner. So if you like retro rail shooters along those lines, then definitely this is one that I really recommend you check out. Although, you don't necessarily have to take my word for it. There is a demo available on Steam, so if you have a Steam account, you can check it out that way as well. All that said, diving into the main menu. So here, we'll be starting the game, and this takes us to our mode selection. There are two game modes you could potentially play in. There's the Arcade and the Caravan. So if you're not familiar with Caravan, it's basically a timed score attack, in this case 3 minutes. Arcade takes us to our difficulty selection, and I feel that the range is actually pretty good here. Normal just really kind of eases you into the gameplay, and then once you've gotten like a good handle on normal, you can start bumping up the difficulty. Selecting normal, we're taken to the stage select, and this is one thing I do really like about this particular game, and other Teradine games as well, where you'll have this selection of stages, and if you happen to put the game down mid-run or get a game over on, say, like stage 6, you can come back and pick up from that stage. It's a really good continue mechanic that allows you to play the game even in chunks if you don't want to play it through in all one go. Selecting stage 1, this is Missile Dancer 2. So rather than using a polygon look to it, the whole Missile Dancer 2 aesthetic is this scaling sprite engine that Teradine Games put together. So very much in the vein of your 16-bit and 8-bit rail shooters from the late 80s, early 90s, and I just love the way that it looks and feels. As far as controls are concerned, you use your left stick to move around, and by default it doesn't have flight control, so basically your up and down aren't reversed. You can turn that on in the menu, and for myself I did do that as that's my preference for these kind of games. Our attacks consist of a machine gun that basically acts as more of a defense than it does an attack. It's short range, so it's only going to hit enemies that are close by, but it will defend you from enemy missiles. Our main source of attack is this lock-on mechanic that, well, the game is obviously kind of named around. So what we have here is this reticule in the middle of the screen, and any enemy that we move that on top of, it'll lock on to the enemy. And depending on the kind of missiles we have equipped, that will be how many total lock-ons we have. Initially we start with a sphere missile, which is medium damage, but a decent number of lock-ons. It has 6 total. Then we've got the multi-missile, which allows you to have 12 lock-ons, but is relatively low damage. There are some situations where that might be advantageous, lots of enemies, or if you're looking to build up a combo multiplier, that could actually be a great way to do that. And then last we have the Napalm, which is the one I recommend for fighting bosses, as it's high damage, though it's low lock-on. You only have a total of 4 lock-ons. That's our first boss down, and it was relatively quick as I was using the Napalm missile, which really is the best for the bosses. Once we're finished with the stage here, we get this screen result. You do have an extend, basically an extra life every 1,000,000 points. And really, that is Missile Dancer 2 for your enjoyment. So before we start talking about some of the plus and minus flavors, let's talk briefly about scoring. Throughout the course of a stage, there are all these various special targets that we can destroy or pass through for extra bonus points. In addition to that, this uses a combo system very similar to other Teradine games. So as we destroy enemies, in this case using the lock-on mechanic, we'll build up, or rather from hits, we'll build up a combo. And that combo meter shows up in below our mini-map in the top left of the screen there. Once the combo meter runs out, you'll get a multiplier of whatever that combo was times 1,000 points if you exceed a combo of 5. So you're looking to build high combos with as long of a run as possible. Then when it runs out, you'll get a big score. In this case, just 7,000 points there, but that would be the advantage of using the multi-missile. Is a lot more missiles allows you a lot more lock-ons, hits, and thus you can continue to build the combo even higher. Some strategy involved there. But overall, your runs are going to be similar. It just because there are some dead spaces where you're not going to be able to continue your combo. So as far as the minus flavors of this game are concerned, really this first one is more a fault of the genre itself, specifically the more retro style rail shooters than anything else. But there are times where things are extremely busy graphically. You've got tons of bullets and enemies on the screen, your own smoke trails from your missiles. It gets very difficult to tell what's going on sometimes. And yeah, that's not specific to this title, that's just a problem with this type of rail shooter in general. Then, although the game itself has 16 stages, it would have been nice if there had been just a little bit more variety in maybe the enemies or the obstacles. There are some great stages where we are like flying over a highway or fighting in a volcano area where we've got fireballs flying at us. It would have been great to see a little bit more of that with the number of stages that were here. Not necessarily that big of a problem, but just one of those things I would have liked to have seen more of. On the plus flavors though, so the game itself has a great soundtrack. So if you enjoy some nice retro chiptune action for this kind of a game, then you're definitely well served here. In addition to that, you've got solid controls that work really, really well for this kind of a game. And in addition to that, just the whole gameplay mechanics themselves are really kind of flawless for this type of title. It's really one of the best rail shooters of this type that I've had the opportunity to play, and that alone, I can recommend it. So, but really, at the end of the day, the biggest plus flavor is it just does a perfect job of capturing that retro rail shooter feel. So if you're somebody like me that has a big soft spot for titles like Space Harrier, G-Lock, the Afterburner series, ones like that, then this one is definitely a must play. And for me personally, it definitely comes highly recommended. And with that, we find ourselves at the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.